Hello my beautiful book besties, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Liv and today we are going to be chatting about all the book series I am currently in the middle of reading. Now, I've seen this video floating around for quite some time now about people chatting or vlogging about the book series they are currently in the middle of, whether they're finishing the series or they're just talking about the series. But for me, I was like, why would I ever create a video that's going to out myself about my commitment issues with finishing book series? Well, let me tell you, when I started to go through all of the series and take count, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself at this point. I thought I had worse commitment issues, but I think with book series in particular, with fantasy, I just binge read series. It's not very often that I don't finish off a fantasy series because I get so sucked into the world. So today we are going to be talking about not only fantasy, but I have a couple mystery thriller, some cozy mysteries, and even a romance series that I would really love to continue. I also wanted to compile a list for myself just because I think it would be fun at some point in time to create a vlog finishing some of these series. One series in particular that I'm going to start off with, which is a very large series and I just have not had the time to commit to it. But without further rambling, let's just go ahead and dive into this video because I'm actually very excited. After creating this list, I'm very excited to go back and actually finish some of these now. There are some series that I'm just like, no, I'll never finish, so I didn't add these into the video, but these are ones that I'm actually dead set on finishing at some point in time. And also, a big disclaimer before we get started, it is extremely dark. It is about to thunder and it is about to storm. We have a summer rainstorm rolling in, so hopefully the lighting's okay. If you hear any rain ASMR, hopefully you're okay with that. Obviously, I'm going to start us off with a bang, which is going to be a fantasy series that is one of the biggest fantasy series in all of history, basically, at this point in time. That is Throne of Glass. This is a series I swore that I would finish this year. If I could choose any book or series to finish and I were to die tomorrow, it would be this series. I've read Throne of Glass and I've read Crown of Midnight. I read those I think in November-ish of last year, but I am currently on Assassin's Blade and then I will be on to Heir of Fire. I need to know why everyone freaks out over Kingdom of Ash. I love Sarah J Maas, love ACOTAR, love Crescent City. Obviously this is kind of like a no-brainer. I've also been putting this off though because I know I'm gonna love it the most. I just don't want it to be over because once I finish this series I will be all caught up on her books and I will just be twiddling my thumbs until her next book. So that's kind of why I've been holding off on reading this, but it's time. It's finally time, people. This is going to be read by the end of the year. Another series that I just recently finished, and some of you have actually been begging me to read this for quite some time now, is the Caraval series. I just read this one and finished it 2 days ago. 5 stars, absolutely fell in love. You guys were right. I just wish I had listened to you sooner. So I'm currently on to Legendary. This book was full of whimsy. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland, but also meets the Night Circus. But also I kind of pictured more of an amusement park type situation and it was just so good. I loved the characters. The plot twists were great. Like, I don't know. I really loved it and enjoyed it, so I am chomping at the actual bit to get to this one. I just know Stephanie Garber is going to be now an all-time favorite author for me. So I definitely owe it to you all for pushing me to read this year after year. I've had close friends that have just binge read the series in a couple days, and I now know why. Okay, the next series that I am very excited to dive into this fall is House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. I absolutely love House of Salt and Sorrows. If you're wanting a creepy gothic fantasy but a retelling of the 12 Dancing Sisters, that is going to be the perfect book for you. And this one I've heard just gets even darker and she just continues to take up her horror elements up a notch, and I don't know what that means. I'm a little bit scared. I've heard the ending can either make it or break it for people, but regardless, her atmosphere is just incredible. I have only read one book by her and we have the 13th child coming out soon. I haven't read read Small Favors. I haven't read this one. I claim that she's a favorite author of mine, but I haven't read any more of her books. So this is a must read this fall. The next series I have is only a duology at this point, so I don't feel like a lot of these series are going to take me long to finish. I did read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I know a lot of people have problems with this series. It's very gory, it's very dark, but it's like vampires meets Hunger Games, and I ate up the first one. I understand why everybody was so angry at the end, but the end just gave me so many mixed emotions to the point where I was like, okay, you kind of have to read the second one. These are pretty chunky books, and I know they're being published in stores now. This series just sucks you in and doesn't let you go. Like, it is so fast paced, it's so cutthroat. The romance is super great as well. It's definitely an enemies to lovers. Obviously they're fighting in like the same arena. It's like nothing I've ever read before, but again, I can see why it's not for everyone, but I want something that's just gonna be super fast, super Hunger Games, and I don't know, there was something about this where I'm addicted to her writing now. I have Daughter of No Worlds, I believe. I feel like if you are a Sarah J Maas person, specifically for Crescent City, I can definitely see you getting into this series. The next series I'd love to get back into, specifically in the winter time, is A Winter's Promise. This is the second one, called The Missing of Claire de Lune. This series was originally written in French, which is super cool that it's translated, but these covers are also like the best, most detailed covers I've ever seen. I feel like this series is very underrated. If you are looking to start or dive into a new cozy fantasy kind of romantasy, this is going to be perfect. It also has some elements of Alice in Wonderland, and I believe our main character is betrothed to a man in another world. Now in this world we have a girl named Ophelia who can travel to different worlds through mirrors, which is so cool and so unique, but also she has this special capability of being able to read an object's history and who they are attached to. So there's also like a mysterious element to this series, but also like it's just so cool. I've never read anything that was this unique before. I can see why people have a problem with it because it is translated. So I will say the writing isn't necessarily like my favorite, but it is very easy and straightforward to understand, and if you're wanting to try something new that's cozy, definitely try this one. The next series was an absolute no-brainer to add to this list, and that is Foxglove by Adeline Grace. I read Belladonna last year, or was it the beginning of this year? I think it was last year, but I was so sucked in, you guys. I don't typically just listen to books. I'm always tandem reading physically with it, but with that story and the narration, oh my gosh, one of the best audiobooks I've ever heard. It was so creepy. This is going to be the perfect gothic mystery fantasy romance for this fall, and Wisteria comes out next month, so I will be anxiously waiting, but during that time I'm going to be diving into Foxglove. This series is a 6 out of 5 star series for me, and I don't know what's taking me so long to get to this one. The next series I have is actually a fantasy series that really got me back into reading. It was one of the first buddy reads I ever did on booktube, or when I first started Bookstagram. It was with my friend Kaylin, and we both fell in love with this series. I don't know why in the world it is taking me so long to get back to this, but that is God's Grave by J. Krystal. Listen, J. Krystal is not for the faint of heart whatsoever. It is gory, it is bloody, there is cursing, it's kind of crude at times, but the humor just makes this series all the worthwhile. This is about our main girl named Mia Corvair, who is basically going to this academy to train to become an assassin. She is hoping to avenge her parents from this one guy. I don't know if he's like a king or whatever, but she's basically going to get revenge on him for killing her parents. Not only that, but it sounds silly to call this like a cozy fantasy, but she has this black cat that is some sort of familiar, but he's made out of shadow, and I feel like this whole world that he has created is just so much fun and so unique, and I love a bad A female character, if you know what I'm saying. We love a good fight scene and training, and I believe there's some sort of like competition between the other people at this like academy. I don't even know how long it's been since I've read the first one, but this series was so much fun. I remember having such a blast with it. This is one of the only books that I have read that has footnotes in it where it actually makes sense, and I looked forward to the humorous footnotes. So if that is at all off-putting to you, please don't let that hinder you from picking up this series. Next is a book that I actually cannot believe it has taken me this long to read. Out of all of these books, I am just appalled and very disappointed in myself that I have not continued. That is Travis Baldrey's Bookshops and Bone Dust. I feel like you guys probably remember how much I talked about Legends and Lattes. That book I feel like is what really kicked off the cozy fantasy genre for a lot of us, and now Travis Baldrey is like a trendsetter, and I am just so surprised I have not picked this up yet. I believe it came out in November of last year, which is the perfect cozy month to pick it up. So I'm definitely going to put this on like a winter or fall TBR this year. If you don't know, this is actually the prequel to Legends and Lattes, but I believe you could read them separately, but I probably recommend reading Legends and Lattes first just because I haven't read this one. But this is about an orc Viv who used to be a fighter, and she's just tired of that type of lifestyle. So she moves to this little small seaside town where no one has any idea what the heck coffee is. So she starts a coffee shop. There's a little mouse that helps her in the bakery department, and you guys, it is the cutest, most fun, easy, bingeable book I've ever read. If you are new to the fantasy genre or you don't want a lot of world building, I highly recommend trying this series, especially for someone that's a beginner and just kind of wants to dip their toes a little bit into the fantasy world. The next series is perfect for summer, and sadly I don't know if I actually have the time to commit to finishing this duology. Actually, it's a trilogy now, my bad. But that is Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. I read Daughter of the Pirate King last year and ate it up in one weekend. It was so good and so fun. Imagine Jack Sparrow's daughter being the main character. She goes on all of these different fun adventures, and you're like, how in the world is she gonna get out of this one? She even has like the same humor and kind of the same personality, which was just super fun. The last fantasy series that I'm in the middle of, which again, I was shocked that I am not in the middle of more series, but I'm also really proud of myself. I have issues where I just binge a series, but I guess after all, that's not exactly an issue. That's probably a plus for a personality trait as a reader. But my next series is one that is perfect for spooky season, you guys. If you are looking for a spooky, paranormal, historical mystery, but make it fantasy, look no further, because The Diviners by Libba Bray is absolute perfection. I don't think I have ever been more scared reading a book. The Diviners was very realistic. There's also some biblical elements to it of like the end times, which was really spooky for me and just made it super personal. So the author definitely did her research, but I have never been more invested or loved characters more than the Diviners. Again, it has been 3 or 4 years since I read the first one, but Lair of Dreams is number 2 that I am going to be continuing, and I really want to continue it this fall or this winter because she has not come out with any books recently, and it makes me really sad. I think she might currently be working on something, but this second book came out in 2015, so it's almost 10 years old at this point. This series is full of twists and turns, and it's just so fun. It's so deep, and the world is so cool. And because I'm back in kind of like my historical fantasy era, that's what I've really been craving lately, I feel like this is going to be perfect. Now we're going to talk about a couple mystery thriller series, which is not very common for mystery thrillers, but I am in the middle of a couple that I've really enjoyed and would really love to continue, starting us off with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So I currently do not own Good Girl Bad Blood, which is the second in the series, but I read this book 3 years ago and I actually rated it 3 stars. It was just okay, but the fact that it's being made into a show is just making me think maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. I don't know why I didn't rate it higher, but I do know the books just keep getting better and better, and I've heard the end of number 3 is just wild. So I'm very curious what the ending of this series is like, so much so that I bought this book. I'm gonna reread it, I'm gonna continue the series, and I'm definitely gonna be watching the show that comes out on August 1st. I recently loved the reappearance of Rachel Price. That was a 5-star read for me, so obviously I'm gonna backtrack and give Holly Jackson another chance with this one, and hopefully this time will be so much better for me. Next, I have Killer Instinct, which is part of the Natural series by Jennifer Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read the first one in like a day. It was easily 24 hours that I flew through the naturals. This series is like Criminal Minds but teenagers, and there's also this underlying plot of our main character trying to find her missing mother, and this group of kids in the first book, or this group of teenagers, is trying to track down a local serial killer. Some wild stuff happens in that book at the very end. It was crazy, but it was honestly so much fun, and I can't wait to see where this book goes because the first one kind of left off on a cliffhanger. The next series is also by one of my new favorite mystery thriller authors, which is Freida McFadden. I read The Housemaid and gave it 5 stars. I was not expecting that when I read it, and I immediately went and bought the second book. So I am just so excited to get into this one. I've heard the third one, people are really liking that one, but I could be completely wrong. Either way, if you have not tried Freida McFadden, please try her books because they're so quick. She just writes domestic thrillers in a way that I actually care and am invested in the characters. Typically with mystery thrillers, you don't want to get attached. Some of them die or they're just like unlikable characters and you're just there for the mystery or the plot. But this series, I'm actually really invested in the people and I can't wait to see what this housemaid does in this book. Next is a series, a third in a series that I don't know again why it's taking me so long to read. I love this author, but I think I was just getting a little burned out at the time because I read her books back to back or something. But I have Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun. She has had like a novella come out and I believe the 4th book is coming out. Finlay Donovan Digs Her Grave or something, and I need to catch up because these books are so easy to fly through. They're so fun. It's like, yes, they're unbelievable, but I don't know, it's just a really fun time and a really fun spin on mystery thrillers. So if you just want to escape in a book, laugh out loud, and have a fun time, Finlay Donovan always does the trick. Last but not least, in my mystery thrillers, I have Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. I believe the second one is called Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, I believe. I have not read the second one. I know you can read them separately, but because they're technically part of a series, the completionist in me is like, okay, I love this one, so I need to buy the second one. This is definitely a series that isn't going to be for everyone. It's very tongue-in-cheek, I guess you could say, very straightforward, very confusing. There's a lot of characters, there's a lot of people that you aren't going to care about. The twist was really good. There also was some content warnings in this one, I believe, but I would recommend reading this in winter time. I believe the characters came to like this mansion during the winter time. It was very like Knives Out feels. So if you like Knives Out, I would definitely try this series. But the next one, the one on the train, definitely sounds like Murder on the Orient Express. So that one is definitely going to be up my alley. I read quite a few cozy mystery series last year because that's the year I was kind of getting into them, but one in particular that sticked out to me during the summertime especially is Live and Let Chai. The second book is called No Tea Goes Unpunished, which I do not own yet, so I do need to get it. But if you are looking for like a cozy summer tea shop with a mystery on the beach, this is perfect. If you've never read a cozy mystery series, this is one of the top ones that I always recommend. Brie Baker just has a way of writing that's so relatable, but also isn't too cheesy, because I feel like cozy mysteries can be very cheesy. This also had a twist that I was not able to predict, and most cozy mysteries I've been able to predict what's going on. Another cozy mystery series that I absolutely loved, the first one I ever read was In the Company of Witches, so I still need to read the second one, When the Crow's Away, but I'm very sad because this author is discontinuing this series. They are no longer writing books, but honestly that still doesn't deter me from wanting to read this second one. If you are looking for a fall witchy cozy mystery series but also has a lot of depth and emotion to it, because I actually cried at the end, definitely check out this series. It's about our main character who is struggling with grieving her dead husband, and she can actually see ghosts, I believe, but she lives with her 2 aunts that are so funny. They own this B&B, but it had those perfect cozy like Stars Hollow vibes that I absolutely love. If you're looking for a cozy mystery series that's a little bit heavier on the romance, look no further, because Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder was honestly very surprising. It was one of my favorite books that I read last year, and the second one, Heidi Lucy Loses Her Mind, is one that I still have to read. If you are looking for a cozy mystery that doesn't exactly feel like a cozy mystery, but has main characters that are super relatable, but has very cute and clean romance, this is the series that you want to pick up. I feel like it's kind of in its own genre, but it was just so unique and so fun, and it actually had a lot more depth to it than I thought. I would definitely look up content warnings for the first one. I'm not sure about the second one, but this first book was just incredible. I was like, whoa, for an indie published author, this is actually really good. Last but not least, the one actual romance series, the only one that I can think of that I'm actually in the middle of right now, is The Match by Sara Adams. I read this one last summer and I have yet to read The Enemy. She recently came out with new covers of these and is selling them in Barnes & Noble, but I obviously had to swoop up the indie editions because, I don't know, I just like these colors better. But this first book was so adorable and wholesome. It's about a single dad whose daughter suffers from epilepsy, which is also something that our main character, female lead, also struggles with. She actually works for a business where her job is to partner up a service dog with people that have health issues, and so she's in charge of partnering them with a dog, and it is so good. And I'm not exactly sure how this book relates to the first one, but regardless, I loved this one. It was a little cheesy at times, the main character was a little whiny, but I mean, it's Sara Adams. It's wholesome, it was sweet, and I cannot wait to read this one. Alright friends, well those are all my currently reading series, which again is not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. There's about 19 or 20 series here, and most of them are fairly short, so I know I'm not gonna have a problem finishing them. But let me know in the comments below if you, like myself, have commitment issues to series like some of us do. I'm always very intimidated and shy to start a new series because I know I'm just gonna have to dedicate like a week long to reading it. Honestly, I just love a good fantasy series, but let me know if any of these books are on your currently reading or what series you're trying to finish before the end of the year. I feel like I have my work cut out for me for sure. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, supporting my channel, sticking around. I love you guys so incredibly much, and I will see you in my next video.